So we'll get started with some quick intros, and we can also dive into why we're here. So I'll go first. My name's Molly Wheaton. I'm a co-founder at Earn Better, which is a company that uses AI to help people in the job search. All of our services are completely free, so if you need help on the job search, feel free to check us out. Before Earn Better, I spent about 10 years at various tech companies, mostly in the Austin area, in a few different roles, such as recruiting, operations, and client management. Kevin, do you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Grunewald. I've been in the TA recruitment space for roughly 10 years. I've worked in biopharma, renewables, technical engineering. I've worked in the industrial sectors as well. Currently in the marketing tech space, as well as a little bit of the skilled trades. And happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin. We really appreciate you being here. Which brings us to the reason we're here. So Kevin and I were talking about doing an event together that could shed light on some of the hot topics in the job search space. So these are issues or questions that we see or hear about frequently, including some misconceptions that are floating around. So I've asked Kevin not to hold back today and give you his candid opinion on each of these topics. Might not always be what you want to hear, but it'll be the truth from his perspective. So that's all we can ask for. So yeah, we'll go through a few of those topics, and then we can open it up to Q&A from the audience at the end. Couple caveats before we get started. We'll try to get to everyone's questions, but we might not have time. So if we don't get to yours, feel free to follow up with one of us afterwards. And then feel free to comment throughout the event. But just FYI, I'm going to be staying present in the conversation with Kevin. So I might not be able to review your comments in real time. That said, still submit them. We'll review them at the end. And we'd definitely love to hear any of your questions, thoughts, or feedback. All righty. With that, we can get started. So we'll go with the first question, Kevin. We hear this a lot, like remote jobs are getting harder and harder to get. So do you mind providing your thoughts and perspective on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from what I've seen, there's just not as many remote jobs out there. They've really kind of taken, it's really kind of trending downwards. But yeah, I mean, it's something that, surged really high after during and briefly after the pandemic, but, they've it's really trickled down from where, it was just even, a year and a half or 2 years ago. Yeah, finding remote jobs is harder. And then on top of that, you have increased competition for those jobs due to all the layoffs. So.
Yeah. And the fact that everybody wants remote. So there's fewer openings, but then there's more people going after them. So it's just a more competitive job set. Any advice that you give people if they reach out saying they're having issues finding remote roles?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. I mean, I talk with people on LinkedIn all the time that are, looking for remote work. It's something that's still highly desired. But I mean, who knows? I mean, with the current market, I mean, that could change. We're in an employer market right now. I would say every industry but the skilled trades, because that hasn't changed. That's still a candidate market. But everything outside of that, yeah, it's still.
Yeah, and as we know, the pendulum always swings. So who knows how long that will be, but at some point it will turn into a job seeker market, and there could be more roles like that. Typically, what I'll tell folks is, the next best thing is hybrid. So if you could find something that allows, some remote work, but also some in office. And, if you can't find remote, that's probably a good alternative.
Yeah, I mean, if you can make that work, I know that there's been a very, a lot of companies have made that transition to hybrid. It's just a matter of, where
Hmm.
the office is, to really work out those logistics, as far as relocating or and such. But yeah.
Yeah, totally. So the next topic we had was incomplete applications. So I think first off, what are those if people aren't aware? And then how are they impacting job seekers?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that when I mean everyone applies, right? They go through an ATS, and it could be, whatever the application looks like, right? Filling out those questions, it could be, where are you located? What are you looking for, compensation wise? Just very basic questions. Choosing not to fill these out, I mean, technically, it's it's part of the application process, and it can be viewed as incomplete, which is, it can null and void your candidacy for the position. So it's very important to fill out all the questions as best as you can.
That makes sense. Like if you skip any, that could make it so you're not even considered.
Yeah, I mean, some of the questions could be, first name, last name. I mean, stuff that, you know, anybody that's looking for a job, I mean, would put on there. So yeah, just completing those, and, being very thorough when doing that. I think it really shows, your commitment and how serious you are in looking for a job.
And would you say that you've seen an increase in those recently?
Um, I mean, just in general, I mean, I think I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. That's like that's just something that's, always been the case. It's the same thing with, attaching documents which are supposed to be your resume, but they're not. That's another thing that happens quite often. So,
Mhm.
just paying attention to what, being very thorough. I mean, it's little things like that can set you apart from, getting requisitioned out there and getting a rejection email versus getting moved forward in the process.
Got it. Um, so the next one we have is the often debated open to work badge on LinkedIn. I see so much on this.
Yeah.
What side of the debate do you fall on?
Well, being someone that's, in a role that, uses LinkedIn Recruiter, and there's actually filters built into LinkedIn Recruiter to find these people that have their open to work banner on. I mean, it gives you specific numbers, uh, and you can pull these people up. If you want to look at people with only their open to work banner on, um, let's say, it could be something simple as sales. I mean, it'll pull you a whole list of people that have their open to work banner on in one specific location. So and then, that could be the public open to work or banner, or it could be the private banner. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely advocate for it. I mean, if you're looking for a job, you should definitely be using it. One of the versions of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think I've heard similar things from other recruiters where folks will search by that filter so that they, are their queries are including people who are actually looking for a new job. So if you're not using it, you're potentially removing yourself from, several search strings that could potentially, be an outreach to you about a role.
Exactly. Yep. Plus that, certain companies have certain metrics as far as, like a open percentage, like when you send out LinkedIn in mails. So if you're reaching out to people that have their open to work banner on, that means that they're ready and looking. And so that open percentage, could be a lot higher, could help you boost that.
Yeah. I see one comment that came in about someone getting a lot of scammers targeting them through the open to work banner. Um, Thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah. I think, any company that reaches out to you, and, I think that, Google is a very valuable tool. And I think that, if you're researching a company and you can't find anything on it, I think that that's definitely a red flag. I think that, there's a few other red flags, including their email, their company name. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
doing, your homework, making sure that, it's, I think it's a little bit harder maybe with like the startups, because they could be brand new,
Mhm.
or, seed companies. So it just kind of depends. But yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you though. It's like trust your gut. And also if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. We've also and if something comes off as sketchy, I've heard of a few where, someone's asking you to get on the Signal Messenger, or you get offered a job before you even interview, or you get a job offer when you haven't even applied, or,
Yeah.
maybe asking you to purchase equipment and they're going to send you a check to repay you. It's like those sorts of things, like, just trust your gut.
Yeah. I think anytime someone asks you to, jump on a WhatsApp call, or, I mean, I could see if it was like an international role maybe, but even still, it would probably be like a Zoom or a Teams call. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I
something that
think,
would be not just a messenger app either, which is
yeah,
like text based.
yeah.
Um, I'm gonna do one more from the audience and then move on.
Sure.
What about someone asked about, for folks who were laid off and have a gap, how to best address that in their resume?
That's actually a good one. I think that just, depending on when that gap was, I mean, if it was between, COVID and now, I mean, I, I've hired over the last few years. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of people that I've been able to source, recruit, and help get hired that had gaps,
Mhm.
for, multiple reasons, taking care of, a family member, going back to school, they decided to, work on having a family, could be going on a sabbatical, travel. I've talked to somebody in the past that after college decided to go on, a 2-year trip across Europe because he wanted to see the world. I mean, I don't think that's something that should be viewed as negatively, that shouldn't negatively impact anybody. I mean, that's just what it is. But yeah, I mean, I don't really look at gaps. I mean, I think you got to ask the right questions. Just,
Mhm.
like, as long as you're asking those questions and they're giving you answers, I mean, to validate that, I think that's really all we need. And then, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I've heard that I would potentially add is if you've been doing anything, during your gap that could highlight,
Mm, yeah.
new skills that you've
Volunteering.
Yeah, exactly, or any sort of transferable skills, if you're taking care of a loved one, there's a lot of, coordination and project management that goes into that. So there's
Mhm.
different ways that you can highlight what you've been doing, or maybe you've taken a course, or yeah, volunteer work, whatever it might
Mhm.
be. If there is something that you've been doing, potentially highlighting that.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one.
Great. Okay, so the next one we had on our list was, you mentioned something about seeing more recruiter job openings. So I was hoping you could opine on that and kind of tell us what that might mean for the broader market.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I go through my feed and, I'm seeing more and more people getting hired. Uh, you know, I'd like to think that, the more recruiters that are getting hired, obviously the more hiring is going to be happening. So, to me, that indicates that things are, at least leveling out now and not necessarily, might not be going, I guess, seeing a huge spike in hiring, but I think it's a very positive look on the job market and things to come. I think between now and November, I think that things could be changing pretty dramatically. It just all depends. I'm in the process of buying a house right now, and our interest rate just dropped to like 1.5%. So I mean that's another exciting thing to see. That means the market overall is stabilizing. So
Yeah. No, I think those are two good leading indicators: interest rates going down, and then increasing recruiter and talent acquisition openings. That doesn't mean that like overnight there's going to be a surge in jobs, but if companies are beefing up their recruiting teams, that means they're likely going to be hiring more. So that should be seen as a good thing.
definitely.
I'm going to go do another live question. Someone was asking about why a resume might not get picked, even if you have relative skill sets and experience.
Relative skills and what? I'm sorry.
And experience.
Okay. I mean, it really depends on like the industry. I mean, in tech right now, I mean, you could be getting declined for positions just simply because they are hiring someone, and maybe you apply too late. Maybe you're out of state and the position is on site or hybrid, and there's a lot of different things there. I mean, they could have someone. I know this isn't. I'm not a fan of this process, but sometimes they could potentially have someone internally and they're just posting it externally for compliance reasons. So
Yeah.
there's the list is like there's probably 20 to 30 different reasons why. I would just say don't give up. Keep going. I'd say set up alerts on your LinkedIn when new positions are posted within 24 hours. When as soon as they're posted, apply. The sooner you can get to the first batch of candidates or first batch of resumes in the system for positions, the chances go up significantly for you or for that person. So.
Yeah. And it's a good point about people leaving posts up for like either compliance reasons or, they might have some sort of internal procedure or process, which is so frustrating. I don't really understand why companies do that, but, I've also heard of people, they'll post a job, they get 100 applicants. They're going to go through those, figure out who's qualified, screen them, see if there's somebody good. They might leave it open for another day or two to get additional applicants in case, there isn't somebody in their first batch. But that just goes to show that like getting your application in earlier or sooner can make quite a bit of a difference.
It really can. If you have relevant experience and you're able to, I would say apply within that first couple hours, within that first hour or two, even your chances go way up.
Yeah. Another person was mentioning like being out of state, and if you're willing to relocate and make that clear on your resume, but it seems like she still feels like maybe they're passing how can you make a company not pass and understand that you really are willing to relocate?
That's tough because a lot of companies are going through this right now, with transitioning to a hybrid. Um, I mean, I think that, you're doing exactly what you should be doing. As far as, I would make it well known on your LinkedIn as well, that you're open to relocating. Yeah. That's a tough one.
Yeah, because I agree with you. Like, I feel like she's doing all the things right by
Yeah.
indicating open and willing, and obviously reiterating that if you make it to a recruiter screen. But I could see, on the other hand, a recruiter or hiring manager being a little hestant. Is this person actually going to pick up and move if they
Yeah.
get told?
Yeah. So there's definitely some, in my experience, I could, there's, in situations like that, there's definitely some hesitancy. And then the recruiter, if it's someone that has relevant experience and the hiring manager likes the resume, the recruiter will reach out and just validate that, are you willing to relocate to X city, um, to work on some type of hybrid schedule.
Makes sense. Someone else was commenting that it's, really difficult to tailor a resume fast enough to apply within the first few hours. And this is obviously my company, so I'm a little bit biased, but you could use her in better. We tailor resumes using AI, and takes, typically 30 seconds. So use it as a baseline. We definitely want you to review it and make sure that it resonates and is accurate. But if you're trying to tailor resumes quickly, we'd be happy to help, and all of our services are free. Let me see. I'm going through more comments, Kevin. I know we had, I think we wrapped through most of our topics, and we have a few more minutes. So
Yeah, we can do more Q&A. That's fine.
okay, cool. Someone else said, thoughts on being in the first 100 applicants versus waiting for an internal employee referral.
The first 100 applicants. I mean, you got to remember, there's someone going through those resumes. So, 100 people, both, I mean, I would, for anybody that's looking for work, I think that, use all the tools or all the resources that you can. I think that, from my point of view, like, not every referral is a good referral, but as long as I would just say this: anytime you're looking to get a referral, just say, hey, here's my resume. Do you mind taking 2 minutes and just seeing if what I'm doing aligns with this role? I mean, I think that anytime you get a second pair of eyes on your resume and you're looking to move into a position, I think that it'll definitely help solidify your referral, because then that person can go and say, hey, I have somebody, they have X amount of years of experience in X field. I see that it directly correlates with these job duties and responsibilities for this role that you're looking to fill. I think that would carry more weight than just adding someone's name in a ATS system under referral. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I think that's
kind of, yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a good answer. We had somebody earlier in the session ask about fractional services. So like temp to hire or freelancers. Do you think HR professionals or hiring teams are open to this type of work environment based off of, like the current market?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, so in a lot of the positions I've seen being posted, HR positions, I've seen a lot of contract positions, while they're not permanent, which, right, it's still a job. I see it as, okay, maybe they're wanting to hire and they're projecting to grow. Um, so to me, it still seems like, okay, I mean, growth is growth. So as far as jobs go, so I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think that doing your research and seeing where that company is at, right? Go on Google. Have they had a history of layoffs? How's their stock looking? You can tell a lot from what a company is doing just Googling what their stock is and what they've been doing over the last 6 months to a year.
And this was at one of my previous companies, and this was before the crazy market we're in now. We actually did a lot of temp to hire, and we found that it was good on both sides. The candidate or applicant can get a feel for the type of work and the work environment and make sure they're a good fit. And then same on the employer side. So I do think that model can work well.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I think we'll probably have time for one or two more. Okay, we had one individual ask, do you have any suggestions for addressing ageism during an interview?
Ooh. Ageism. Okay. As far as them asking questions or giving answers to, I don't know, did they elaborate at all on that?
Yes, 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, so this individual said, I've made it past several first round phone interviews, but when interviewers do a second round video call and see that I'm over 50, I don't make it further in the interview process, even though I have all the qualifications that they're looking for. Follow-up questions from him are, should I address my age and mention I have no intention of retiring anytime soon, or are there any other suggestions?
I would start with, and I don't know if this person has done this or not, but I would definitely, remove the years on LinkedIn, remove the years off your education, to help curb some of that. I would say anything past 10 plus years of work experience probably doesn't need to be on LinkedIn unless, it's really significant experience. Even still, I'm still kind of torn on that. That alone will help maybe curb some of that. I think that as far as getting on a Teams call, I would maybe focus on what he's been doing for the last 5 to 8 years versus, right, like, depending on when his experience is. Obviously, I can't really, without looking at his resume, I wouldn't be able to. But I think focusing on what you've done recently, I think will help take the focus off of what you did to remove any questions about what he did, years ago. So I think that would definitely help.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really unfortunate because I'm seeing other comments float in about other people feeling similarly that, once they get to a video call, they feel that, potentially they're passed on because of that. And, one suggestion one person made was, bringing it up proactively and saying, I'm looking for a long-term home. I want to be here for a while. Do you think that's
Mhm.
another good thing to do once you're already in an interview?
I mean, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that, stating that you're looking for somewhere to, spend the rest of your career, I
Yeah.
think it's a good answer for that. You don't want to go into too much detail on that, but I think that, that definitely validates it.
Yeah.
And
And I
then,
think,
mhm,
like,
sorry.
no, I was gonna say to your point, like, if someone makes that decision just based that's obviously bias and discrimination, and it's like, as the job seeker, focus on what you can control and, like, what the value you're going to bring, what why you're interested, why you'd be a good fit. And again, control what you can control. And I mean, it's really unfortunate people are making decisions based off that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, control what you can control. I think that's the best thing to focus on, because the only thing that's going to happen is if you try to focus on things you can't control, it's just going to stress you out way more than you need to be.
Yeah. Should we do one more and then hop off? I know we're already 1 minute over.
Yeah, we can do one more. That's fine.
All right. We have a couple about the ATS. I guess you just want to start with like what it's not, like
Yeah, sure.
rejection.
So an ATS systems are like digital filing cabinets. They're there for you to apply to a position. Your resume is attached to that position. Once someone's hired on that position, whether it be, whether you applying or, someone else getting hired, you are then requisitioned out of that rec, and then that rec is closed out. That resume is still in there. It's still in like a filing cabinet, so to speak. So that's kind of how that part of it works. As far as like automations, a lot of companies use knockout questions if they're looking for something specific. Let's say it could be a skilled trades role. Let's say an electrician that needs a certain license in a certain state. They would list that in the knockout questions, and that will help weed out anyone that doesn't have that, so to speak. And of course, there's, state websites that you can, verify people's licenses on and such. So, but that's kind of how the knockout questions work. And then, so let's say you apply to that position and you don't have that license, right? You will more than likely get some type of automated rejection email if you haven't filled out those questions, or if you didn't fill them out, or you didn't fill it out incorrectly. So that's where I think some people get upset, because there might be like some misconception around that, like, oh, my resume didn't beat the system. So that's kind of what happens. There's like that's kind of like that misconception about that. As far as like there being actual automations in ATS systems, I mean, some of them are there. They're just not being used yet. So I think everybody has seen what happened with Gemini, and I think that they're just kind of pressing the pause button and trying to maybe refine AI technology as a whole, or specifically the technology that they're using, because I just think that there's some hesitancy around that, and it being reliable, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we want, right? You have hundreds of thousands of people applying to positions, and if you're not going to be reliable every single time, that's a problem. So,
yeah, I think that's a good one to wrap on. And one thing I'll just kind of reiterate, because I see it in the comments, someone's asking about like if you get a rejection email almost immediately, it's typically because how you answered one of those knockout questions.
Could be.
So, if you're not located in the right area, sometimes it could be around, work sponsorship, your age, if you're over 18. It could be like a question, do you have over 3 years of experience with Salesforce? Sometimes those are, you can get disqualified based off how you answer those. Other than that, your resume is going to get reviewed by a human. It's not some like robot on the back end.
Yep.
All right. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. I know we went 5 minutes over, but we had a very engaged audience, and thank you for everybody who attended. Really appreciate it, and for everybody who participated and asked questions. If we didn't get to your question, feel free to follow up with one of us one-on-one. If there's anything you want to see more of or less of, if we did another one of these, keep us posted. Always open to feedback, but otherwise, really appreciate it and hope everybody has a good rest of their Tuesday and a good rest of their week.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Molly.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.